or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate asked him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." The Gospel of our Lord. Please be seated. So if you looked at the front of your bulletin, you will have noted that today is the festival of Christ the King. So I don't know if I should tell you this or not. It might be inappropriate for me to share this with you this morning, but I'm going to anyway. I don't like this festival. I don't like the festival of Christ the King one bit. The whole idea of Jesus as a king is so contrary to so much of what Jesus said and did during his ministry that I simply can't wrap my mind around it. It doesn't fit for me. I mean, think back. It wasn't that many weeks ago when we were reading the Gospel of Mark when Jesus said that he came not to be served, but to serve. That does not sound very kingly to me. Fact is, Jesus was a wandering preacher. He was, to all intents and purposes, homeless. He lived off the land, and he lived off the generosity of others. As best we can tell, Jesus owned nothing. Very little at best. His ministry, his life, his teaching, it all espoused a life of simplicity and a life of sacrificial service. He famously said that the poor are blessed, and so are the meek and the grieving, and those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. You might recall last week Jesus was patently unimpressed with the awesome majesty and glory of the temple. He is patently unimpressed by all of the trappings of power and wealth. He dismisses it all as irrelevant. He reaches out to the lowly. He reaches out and associates with the outcasts of society. He reaches out to the poor amongst us. He reaches out to those whom we would like to forget. He is born, if not in poverty, then in very, very little. And he will die alone and abandoned. I see a lot of wonderful things in Jesus. I see love and mercy. I see compassion and caring. I see sacrifice and selflessness. I see those on the bottom being lifted up, and I see those on the top being called to reach down and do some lifting up. I see a way of life that seeks not self-promotion and selfish gain, but service for the sake of others. What I don't see when I look at Jesus is anything resembling anything that we might consider kingly. He does not live in a palace. He does not want a palace. While he has disciples, he does not have an entourage. He does not have people. He has no courtly hierarchy. He doesn't even say dilly-dilly. I mean, come on. He makes no oppressive use of power. He is not interested in pomp and ceremony at all. And when Jesus stands before Pilate, it is Pilate who represents king. It is Pilate who stands in place of the king. Jesus, if anything, is the anti-king. Pilate is the one who speaks of titles. Are you a king? Jesus speaks of truth. Pilate wants answers. Authority demands answers. Jesus offers himself. Pilate represents the empire. Jesus stands in opposition to that empire. Pilate, with his royal mandate, his power given to him by Caesar himself, thinks he has all the power in this situation. Jesus in his humility is the one who's actually in control. Pilate asks him, "Are you a king?" And Jesus says, "That's what you say, not me. Those are your words, not mine." In the face of imperial power, in the face of kingly power, Jesus offers simply the divine truth. So no, I don't like the image of Jesus as king at all. And yet here we are today talking about Christ the King. Here is this image before us. And the question becomes, what do we do with it? What can we make of this image, and how can we find a way to make this image meaningful for us? The words themselves, Christ the King. If Jesus won't claim that title for himself, and he never does, then where does it come from? If not from Jesus, where does this image of Jesus as King come from? Well, Revelation, for one place. The author of Revelation is certainly making that claim about Jesus. Throughout the book, Jesus is the one seated on the throne. He is the one who will rule over the world. He is all of that. Paul does the same thing in the book of Philippians in chapter 2. He will lift Christ up as a kingly presence. But in both of those books, in Revelation and in Philippians, this claim of kingship for Jesus is a claim based on thinking about the end times. We're thinking about the end of days. That final return of Christ, the end of the world, whatever you want to call it. It's at that time that Jesus will be acclaimed as the ruler of all. Paul says it plainly and clearly, every knee will bow to Jesus, every tongue will confess him as Lord in that final day. He will be at the end of all things, the ruler of all the kings of the earth. He won't be the king of the earth, he will be the ruler of all the kings of the earth. They're the ones who will bow down. And the way of earthly rulers, the way of those who govern by fear and coercion and corruption and power, their way will be shown to be false. And the way of Jesus, which is the way of love and service and sacrifice for the sake of others, will be shown to be the truth. When we talk about Jesus as the divine ruler, and it's a wonderful word, but I got to teach you this word. It's a Greek word, pantokrator. A great word, as it literally means the ruler of all. It's a beautiful image as a picture. If you go to Washington, D.C., to the Basilica of the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, and you go into the sanctuary, and you approach the altar, and it's a massive building. Above the altar is a dome, and the dome is a mosaic of Christ the Pantokrator, holding the book of life with his arm raised in blessing for us all. It's a glorious mosaic. You must go see it sometime. But we have this image. Revelation gives it to us. Paul gives it to us as a way of helping us persevere. We see the world around us. We see what a fallen state it is in. We live in a world where power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we have this image in opposition to that of Jesus, the divine ruler. It's a way to help us stand tall in the face of so many things that will knock us down. Because, we look around the world and we see the people of God oppressed in so many places around the globe. We see our own nation torn apart by people exploiting divisions and prejudices for their own selfish gain. We see the violence in the streets. We see the violence in the schools. We see the violence in the malls. And we see the violence in the churches and the synagogues and the mosques. And we see the violence in people's homes. We see families torn apart by drugs and abuse and neglect. We see wars and violent oppression that cause people to flee for their lives. We see people starving and dying. We see hatred and bigotry running rampant. We see a world coming apart at the seams. And what we need in the face of all of that is a word of hope. An image of hope. Words and images that will give us comfort. Words that will help us to hold on and go forward. We are in need of a word. We are in need of an image to help us make whatever efforts we can to stop the evil and to stop the violence and to stop the hatred and to stop the suffering. And that word, that image comes to us in words written long ago, images presented long ago to other believers in other places and other times who saw the world in torment just like we do and wondered what was going on and how could we survive. We hear words today that told those believers so long ago that no matter what they might see, what they might experience, this world, this fallen, sinful world, is not truly under the control of those earthly powers. This world is under the control of the divine power. It may seem hidden at times, but it's there. It may be a feeble light in a vast room of darkness, but it's there. God is yet in control. To counterbalance a world torn apart, they offered us the image of Jesus holding it together. To counter corrupt and evil rulers, they showed us a picture of Jesus sitting on the throne. They told us in no uncertain terms that there will be a day when all will be well. And when everything will be fine, the rulers of this world will bow down to the one who truly rules. They will bow down to the one who is the truth. Their truth will be shown to be lies, and the truth of God will be shown to be the truth it is. They will bow down to the one who is salvation himself. They will bow down to the one who is hope itself. They will bow down to Jesus. They can't call Jesus a king. They say he is the ruler of the kings. He's greater than that. He is our Lord. He is our Lord today, and he is our Lord forevermore. He is the one we serve, and we serve him not out of fear, but out of love. Jesus is the one who gave himself for us so that we can give ourselves for others. Jesus is the one who shows us that real power, that real glory is found only in the humble act of loving and serving others. The truth is that if you want to see Jesus sitting on a throne, if you want to see Jesus ensconced in a palace, then you will be sadly disappointed. Because the only place we can truly see Jesus, the only place we can truly see that power and that glory that he claims for himself, the only way we can truly see the one we call today a king is on a cross, on a lonely hill. And there we will see what truly gives Jesus his power, and that is love. And we will see his grace and his mercy poured out for us all. And we will receive the healing and the salvation that he longs to bless us all with. We look to Jesus on the cross, and there we will see the truth. The truth is not a doctrinal statement. The truth is not a series of beliefs. The truth is not a thing we do or a thing we act out. The truth is a person. The truth is the man Jesus. Jesus is the living embodiment of what truth is. He is the truth. And that truth that he embodies, that is how he will rule overall. So yeah, maybe I really don't like this festival of Christ the King. Maybe I don't like this image of Jesus sitting on a throne. But I'll tell you this, I love Jesus. I love Jesus, the truth, above all else.